I like your
So yeah.
striped shirt. I love stripes and polka dots.
Oh, thanks. Thought I'd
Yeah.
better change from the hoodie.
Mm.
Whoever said change is as good as a holiday hasn't been on a holiday for a while.
So yeah, we've been
Yeah.
talking about a whole lot of stuff before hitting record. I don't know if we can continue it.
Yeah. Oh, we can. We can. I mean, we can because these feelings, there's a lot of them, and it's a repeating pattern. You know, that rage that comes up, anger,
So
family.
much. I don't even know where it's coming from. Like, I have so much rage. And like, nothing's wrong, right? I mean, like, life is okay and I'm safe and abundant. And I don't know. I'm so angry. I'm so uncomfortable. My stomach hurts. My legs hurt.
Yeah, physical. It's very physical, isn't it? Funny. I'm hearing that from a lot. I'm feeling it. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. There's a lot of physical stuff in the body.
Yeah. And I was talking about watching, let's see, I was watching, oh, so David Clements and Pam Gregory did a video. I don't know. When did they let it out? Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And it's a new heart intelligence and evolutionary waves. And I had asked you earlier if there's a new heart intelligence in a wave around the planet, why does it feel like only the ones consciously doing this inner work are feeling it? And I know that's not true, but it's like I need it to become physical. I need help. I need it. I need to see it in the people who are resisting it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was what we were kind of talking about, isn't it? Yeah. So how do we deal with that? And that's, well, what I can say is, well, firstly, what David Clements is saying about this new wave, this energy wave, and this new heart intelligence. Um, my interpretation of that, based on what I've been shown over the years, and what Tom's sort of said about this, and the Arcturians have said about this, what's actually playing out, is the human race is returning to 5D. So, Tom said all self-aware life is five-sided. So five-dimensional. And I've explained there are four physical dimensions, time and space, the three physical plus time. But the fifth dimension is what you could call the energy that animates form, like the core of, the divine, which is just simply a pure conscious energy before all form. And we're a model. That's the thing about made in the image and likeness of God. Well, the all that is, we're the same dynamic. So consciousness obviously has to be there before thought. Otherwise, how can
Who's
you be
having
aware
the
of
thought?
it?
Right,
Think
right.
so. This is a distinction a lot of people don't get. Or, if you haven't been, if you're just living life in 3D, there's so many there's so much of the context, the spiritual context, which is the fifth dimension, that you need to be able to put two and two together, that we've been sort of robbed of. You don't get taught any of that. We get pulled out of ourselves and then put through this education system. It just reinforces that everything's thinking of the mind. So everything's physical and out there. So that's the mind. Um, so we kind of confuse thought with consciousness, but it's not the same thing. I think, therefore I am, Descartes. Um,
Deep state, Descartes.
I'm conscious, therefore, you know, I am. Thought, if you think about what is a thought, it's a word. Before we speak it, we think it, but it's a word. language, the
Right.
language
And
of the
that's the
mind.
inversion. That's the inversion. I think, therefore, I am should be, and in all truth and
Yeah.
reality is I am, therefore I think.
Well, this is the thing that Tom meant by we created you and you created us, and for that we love you. So it's a bit of a tough one to get your head around, excuse the pun. Because what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's that classic thing. You know, you can't resolve fully the whole question of that in the mind. You got to let go of thinking, and that's what direct experience of the truth of who you are is all about. This thing about enlightenment, coming back to who you are despite the mind, and that's because when you think about the first thought you ever had, it's got to be a word. I. The thought I is ego, mind. Everything mental comes from that. But when you're born, you don't have language. You can't think the word I because you don't know what that is yet. You haven't been taught it. You haven't taken that on. So who was aware of the first thought you ever had? Are you the thought I, or are you the consciousness that thought arises in? And this is the whole thing with satsang, Ramana Maharshi. All spirituality is based on this, basically. We aren't the mind. The consciousness is there before, during, and after all thought, which is why there's no death. The mind dies, the body mind comes to an end, and we exit the vehicle and we return to the natural state. But that natural state is present all the time.
All the time, right? I
It,
even
it never
asked
goes.
you, I asked you a couple of weeks ago, are we gonna, so when the physical death happens, are we still gonna have fun flitting around the universe together? Like,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And
Well, I mean, before enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. After enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. Life is life, and the Arcturians described it to me as life is art, the extraordinary ordinariness. We kind of think we over-aggrandize it as a rescue out there from the mundane reality. But our experience of the mundane reality is just a mind conclusion.
yeah,
Kids
yeah.
are in the joy of life, and it's just a natural process. And you play the challenge of life. Tom said all challenge will not be removed. Challenge is a part of life, but it's more like the challenge of learning a musical instrument, or the challenge of building a fort, or the challenge of how should we do this? The childlike innocence of playing with life. But we think there's a problem with us, and we think there's a problem out there, and that challenge turns into duty, obligation,
Well,
pushing yourself
yeah,
to be something,
yeah,
work.
and when not necessarily atheists, but when people who are in this and just really downtrodden with all of it, think about the eternity, the eternal nature of us, they're like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do this for eternity. And that's coming from a perspective, a human perspective. There's no
Yeah.
way we can have any sort of understanding of eternity. But I understand it because this is all that we consciously know.
It's all we've ever known, and it
This
seems like that's all
bullshit.
it is.
And we see it seems like that's all there is. And like some people say, talking, about reincarnation, I am not coming back to this planet again. You could not pay me to come back to. And then and then my friend Stacy said, and then there's the question, is this a prison planet? Like, because it's not, I know that, but the inversion makes those who are aware of what's going on, the truths and stuff like that, question,
Yeah.
is it a prison planet? Because right
Hmm.
now, the way it's lived, the way it's presented, the way we've been, I don't know, handled, it feels like a slave planet.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is a system of slavery that we've lived in, but it's not the natural state of this planet. And no one's coming back to this planet because this planet is this false reality. Tom described the process we're going through as a transition. We're going through the transition, which is like death.
Right.
But the transition um, from ego back to ego that controls. There's a distinction between ego and ego that controls. Without the thought I, the universe can't exist. So we created you and you created us is the way Tom put it. Because with our self-aware life, there's nothing to be aware of. So at the same time, without the all that is, there's no self-aware life. So waking up to that truth is the transition. So ego death. So there's usually ego death up throughout history has been the Buddha is the representation of ego death. Now he was the Nazarene as well. It was one of his three incarnations. So that's what that represents. Ego death, who you thought you were, that was a mind conclusion. It wasn't correct. So when you're
Everything's a
willing to go,
mind
hang on a minute,
conclusion right now. Yeah.
yeah, what's the source of this suffering, all of this suffering, all of this slavery? Really, what's the real source of it? The belief that it's real. We believe it's the truth, so therefore we live it like it is the truth. So turning around and asking the question, hang on a minute, what's the real problem here? And this is what everyone's been forced into. What I'm done, I can't think what the real problem is. I'm done with all the reasons why I think it should be different. None of them have ever worked, and all the strategies I've used, nothing's worked. So I'm all out of answers. What's the truth? The question's still there. The one that believes that is the problem. The I that thinks all of that, the personality we think we are. It's not who we are at all. It's just an adaptation to a false reality we've been forced to make to try to connect. And it's never worked. And we're at the point now where we can't ignore that reality. It
Yeah.
doesn't work as it is. So, of course, it's kicking up all of this stuff in everybody. And everyone's still doing what we've always been trained to do is come to a conclusion so we can make the chaos stop. This is a
Yeah.
prison planet. I'm never coming back, that kind of thing is just really a product of that same thinking. And we can't resolve this problem at the level of thinking we used to create it. Now, that's the bit we
Yeah.
used it. That's the tough one for everybody to go back to. We basically, how are we enabling this reality to exist? That's the conclusion everyone's being brought back to. Like Ramana, you can't let it go, this problem. All you can do is be willing to see it, i.e., see it for what it really is. It will let you go because it was never true.
Yeah.
We've never questioned the false assumptions underlying the entire human race's connection to reality. Now, that's ego death on a global scale. That's never happened before. So the way Tom put it, you insist you have a human nature. That's all a mental construct. It's not real. What
Right.
you think of as
Right.
humanity,
But
it's not
then,
true.
no, it's not true. But then you get to the question of, okay, so if this Katie, if the jobs I've had, the children I had, the family I have, the ideas and beliefs I have, if none of this is real, which that's the way I look at the world right now, none of this is real, then what is? And
Great question.
and I know it's consciousness and love. Like if it's not love, it's not real. I get that. But there's all these wonderful parts of me that I love, but then I think, wait, they're creations. They're still a part I'm playing. So who am I? Like
That's it.
what's real?
That's the only question worth asking in all of this. Who finds it too much?
Yeah.
As I remember a great interaction in a satsang setting between Gangaji and what basically you go and see someone in satsang, someone like Gangaji, or there was an Australian guy we connected with called Vartman, Papaji in India. This is basically it was handed down. People wake up to the truth by association. You will get what I have. So when you met Papaji hung around Ramana Maharshi until that question. He had to hold that question, who am I really? Who am I really? Who am I really? While his mind went through all of until eventually, poof, he saw it and it
Yeah.
led him the idea so he woke up to the truth of who he is. Then he became the same thing as Ramana. I mean, basically, this is what everyone's going to go through. The exact same process Papaji went through with Ramana is precisely the transition. Then he transferred that by association. Gangaji went through the same process by hanging around him for long enough. Anyway, what would happen is you would go to let's say a library, a local library in one of the meeting halls. There'd be a crowd, all these seats there, and then there would be a little stage, two chairs, Gangaji would be sitting in one chair and then there'd be a blank chair. Who would like to ask a question? And someone would get up and sit in the chair. And one of these interactions, a woman just said, described the scenario and just said, it's just too much for me. It's too much. And Gangaji came straight back with too much for who? Too much for who? Now, that's not a question you can answer straight away.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's the question because is it too much for my mental construct that isn't true? And if that's the case, what value does it have? That
Right,
statement is too much.
right.
It will let you go. The too muchness, the experience of life, it seems like the too muchness is coming from out there. But in reality, it's coming from our belief that this
Mm-hmm.
is reality.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you see through that false conclusion, the only thing that can happen is the truth of who you are and where you are shows itself because there's nothing filtering it out anymore. Takes a while. You've got to hold that question and let all the feelings it triggers come up.
Years.
That's what you're going through. That's what all of us are going through. It is
But
what it
then,
is. It looks, it takes as long as it takes, but everyone's being forced to go, what the F is happening? And that question, you can only ask it and get one result. As you ask and you shall receive. If you
so,
want to know the truth at that level, you will get the answer. And
so
that's the transition.
Papa G waking up to the truth of who he is by association with Ramana and his own thing, and Gangaji waking up to the truth of who she was by association of being around Papa G, and all of us who have had spiritual awakenings that really shook us to our core. That is waking up to the truth of who we are, but we are still in this physical realm. How do you do that?
Well,
It because it
the
looks
ego that controls
crazy.
is arguing with that question.
I don't think I'm arguing with it. I want it to be done with and over. I want to be the truth of who I am and nothing else. Like, I
Yeah,
want it over.
yes. But the ego that controls has a whole expectation. It's based on a theory about reality and an expectation. So the struggle with the process, the suffering with that process is also a product of that thinking. So the expectations of how it should look and when it should happen aren't being met. That's all. But whose expectations are they? And what value do they have if they're not really based on reality? And now that's what Ramanar meant by meet the feeling, that feeling, let the story about it be there, and keep coming back to not knowing. Hey, I don't know that that's, yeah, it feels intense and it feels true and it's all I've ever known. And I don't know what the alternative answer is. The ego that controls is based on managing pain, and chaos is the enemy. Not knowing is the enemy. Pain is based on not knowing. I doubt myself. I don't know that I can handle life, and I doubt life as a result. It's based on not knowing. So of this process is the absolute enemy to the ego that controls. It's a mind control program that was given to us deliberately by those of the interference to stop us living life from the truth of who we are. And that's the only problem we've ever had. And it disconnects us from what Tom called the absolute reality. This isn't what life is. Life has a natural state, which is love and truth. We were born into it and we were programmed out of it. Now, that, my conclusion is, doesn't like chaos. It doesn't like not knowing. It's going to fight and scream and yell, and that intensity, holding that intensity without trying to resolve it out there by making your family take it away from you by saying, yeah, you're right, or making the world different so that you can relax and be okay. Because the motivation behind that is still coming from the ego that controls, and it will never work. That's the point everyone's hitting the wall. Like, that's never worked. We don't quite know what's never worked, but that's the description. The ego that
And we
controls
don't,
doesn't knowing. So when
and
you keep coming back to not knowing while that's all playing out, Tom said, add a fifth element, the fifth dimension, the truth of who you are. Allow room that that's not who you are. Allow room that that mind conclusion is based on a false reality. Yes, you can't see the source of it within you yet, but just keep coming back to that realization, and that's all you can do. And
it's all I do all day long.
the rest is just it happening.
it's so uncomfortable.
It is, but it's finite. The mind is finite. You can't stay in that process forever. It's impossible. If you keep being willing not to know, because that's the truth, isn't it? You don't know. You never did. The illusion that we want to come to knowing, oh yeah, great, I've worked it out. It's all good. And that's all the people who won't wake up are really doing. They refuse to go there, but they're running out of time. They're running out of time. They can't stay there because it's not reality. And reality, this new wave, this new consciousness, it's not new in the sense that it's just we're coming back to who we really are, who we always were, who we've never not been. And the mind conclusion of the human race, Tom said, you insist you have a human nature. What's the problem facing humanity? The ego that controls lack of a belief in an absolute reality, and they go together. That mind conclusion, people are fundamentally flawed, so you got to watch it. That's why I'm fundamentally flawed. This mind control program about humans are less than. This group, they believe themselves to be gods. This 300 family, the Council of Eight, that run it. They think they're gods. They've been manipulating at the Greek god level for 12,500 years plus.
They're
And
not
they think,
leaving without a fight.
well, they think we're animals. Now, the problem with that is it's a delusion. They're delusional. That's a complete falsehood. It's not the truth. And the
Uh,
problem with that kind of thinking is it's the arrogance of the mind. That's why this story that's been playing out throughout the universe's history, the way Tom put it, it always ends the same way. They always end up being messed up by their own false conclusion. But the energy behind the ego that controls has been playing out throughout the history of the universe. That's this battle that's been playing out. And what's happening on this planet will transform that into a whole other way of being. Because we're the most physically dense race, that's part of why this is described as a new consciousness, a new energy. Because it's never happened at this level of the universe's density before, because no other race has ever been, no other self-aware life has ever been this physically dense. So we're coming back to the truth of who we are, but it's happening at a level of existence that process has never happened in before. And that's why it's the most powerful, the way Tom put it, the manner of transition of humanity has never been done before in the history of the universe. So the way we're coming back to the truth of who we are, the entire circumstance around it is unique. And that is a very big deal, a very
I
big.
know. I know. When I listen to you and I hear you, I laugh at myself for having
It's good.
impatience. I laugh at myself for having impatience for something that's so massive. But I have to tell you, the human Katie is incredibly impatient. Oh
Oh,
my
I
gosh,
get that.
Sonia, Sam, Donna, Mike, me, and you, just about everyone is so absolutely full of discomfort. Well, not my mother, but everyone else is completely full of discomfort. Like they're so uncomfortable. They're just crawling out of their skin. Like they can't move comfortably. They can't leave the house easily. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're all totally over it. We're all so over it. But
which is
why?
hilarious because it's
Yeah.
a massive thing. Like, who the hell am I to be impatient for the transformation of humanity and life as we know it in the universe? Like, who am I to be impatient?
Look at the scale of it. Think of it this way. This plan, what's playing out right now at this point of history on this planet, has been underway. This plan has been underway since the universe began. It's not a small thing. This is what blows everybody out of the water is the sheer scale of it. And those of the interference are like ants on an elephant. The, this
Why don't they
so-called
just give
power
up?
form. Well, I mean, this is why enlightenment people laugh. Oh my God, what the hell was I thinking?
What the hell are they thinking?
What?
I know.
It was all not even true.
Right.
Now, I know that's hard to hear when I mean, the amount of, the other thing to think about is don't believe all the stories about suffering out there. You know, we don't know any of it's true.
Nope.
And this idea, I can't remember who it was now. I think he was a Russian scientist of some kind. I heard about it, geez, years and years ago in the 80s, maybe 90, early 90s. I can't remember. I heard about this theory he came up with, or this explanation he came up with, the inversion, how it works. And I was reminded of it in a video someone posted just recently. He called it a pendulum. And he said the whole system works on this false reality, how this loose, like how does it take our creative energy in order to make it happen? Like what's this thing, how does it work?
Mm-hmm.
So we believe this lie, and because we believe it, it creates the world the way it is. And we think the
Yeah.
problem's out there, but it's really us in here. How does that
Believing the
work?
lie.
Yeah. So it's all based on divide and conquer by controlling the narrative. So the flow of information, the awareness is based on how much it's all based on the information we're given. You can only come to a conclusion based on the information you're given. So education, academia, history, it's all been manipulated to create a false picture, which we believe and don't question.
Yep. Yep.
And what
Yep.
that false picture does is keep us in emotional reactionaryism
Yeah.
throughout
Fear and
history.
anger and
Yeah.
sorrow and
Resentment,
grief and
pain.
resentment. Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like what we were talking about with Arna earlier when I said, I haven't gone postal, and you guys were like, "What's that mean?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a you said, it's a phrase in America, and it is. Apparently, years ago, a postal worker, fed up with working conditions or exhaustion or whatever, went postal with a AK-47, whatever, I don't know, and just his office, or I don't know the original story,
Hmm.
but what I said to you and Arna is, I don't believe almost any of the mass shootings I hear. We've talked about this
Hmm.
numerous times. if if I haven't seen it with my own eyes or known someone personally who saw it with their own eyes, I don't believe it. I do not believe it,
Yeah.
because that is the loosh harvesting. That is the spreading fear and anger and
Yeah.
division. Like, I just don't believe anything.
It's all based on that. Yeah. I mean, even if it was true, that's an example of the net result that it gets. You end up in reactionaryism, so you act from it.
Yes.
So, World War Two, I mean, World War One, and the whole history of how civilizations have risen and fallen and, manipulated the population to act out on it, the lie. I mean, we killed each other through World War Two globally, based on this idea. We were sold a lie about each other, so we went and killed each other based on that lie because we were angry. I mean, the only reason fascism was able to rise in Europe in pre-war World War II was because of what happened in World War One, which was
Mm-hmm.
designed to set up this trauma and reactionaryism within the German population, particularly, who have a certain dynamic which was manipulated. Astrologically, they're very Aries and they need to act on it. And the way they were treated by the Allies post World War One because they were defeated. Remember, this was all social engineering. It was all set up deliberately by those of the interference. It wasn't a natural process at all. It was deliberately done to set up what's playing out right now. And there's all sorts of ramifications that came out of it based on centralization of power. So control the narrative, generate stories that sell that there's a problem, that in order to trigger the reactionaryism that's already been programmed into us from childhood, we just get that steered into a story, which isn't even true, by the media, by the government. That reactionaryism is then used to create actions which justify the solution being centralization of power. So the UN came out of it, blah, 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 WEF, all the centralized spy networks around the world who can operate above and beyond the law, as Eisenhower said, beware the military industrial complex, this whole privatization of what should be federally owned by the people. It was all that process was all set up. Now, in the way the Allies treated the German population with war reparations, they deliberately created the what's it called? The collapse of
America,
economy, the Great Depression,
the Great Depression.
which decimated Europe, caused a lot of suffering. So the combination of all that within Germany created a lot of anger and resentment with ordinary people. And then along comes Hitler and promises to take revenge for that. It was all a sell job to justify what came out of it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we all know what came out of it. Now,
Hmm.
how much of it was true or not, it's more
Sure.
about the scenario.
Hmm.
Because definitely World War II definitely happened. Definitely a lot of people died. Whether you
Yep.
believe in the Holocaust or not, whether that was a sell job, blah, blah, blah. Let's not get caught up in it because again, they want the pendulum, uncertainty, certainty. They want us stuck in rabbit holes. They want us stuck in reactionaryism. They don't want us to put two and two together and get our mind to rise above the whole thing and see the pattern and really get past that
Yeah.
controlled narrative to heal the problem of reactionaryism, which is all about trauma, right? So forget the details like that, but it definitely happened and we definitely killed
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
based
never said
on,
it hasn't. I just know it's
yeah,
not
but a lot of
exactly
people
what
have.
we thought. Sure.
I'm
Sure.
just trying to cover that caveat that. So anyway,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that's what is being undone now.
Yeah,
And
the
like the
social
Arcturian,
engineering, like when mom and I first said no to the jab back in 2021, and like my family was just like, if the whole thing is a plan, that means governments around the world had to be in on it. And I'm like,
hmm,
yeah,
people can't go there. The
exactly.
scale's too
They
big.
cannot go there. They're like, you're giving way too much credit to the governments. I'm like, yeah, I am.
Mhm.
I mean, in that regard, in that evil
Yeah,
manipulation, like every single thing you think or get behind or protest or get angry about or sad about has been
just playing the game.
socially engineered for you to feel and react that way.
You're just feeding the
Everything.
beast. You're just feeding the beast.
Yeah.
Now, how do you get that across to people?
I don't.
It's
I give up.
there's nothing you can say to the people who are stuck in the false paradigm that will bring them across that valley quickly. You can't do
No.
it in a conversation. There's
No.
way too many cognitive layers to go through. They have to go through multiple mini paradigm shifts in order to even understand what you're saying. Plus, the emotional resistance, because remember, the false paradigm they're in is designed to stop them feeling the chaos of uncertainty and not knowing. They need to believe that lie. It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome, or they need to believe the lie to be secure, even though they're
Mhm.
suffering miserably because of it. It's
Right.
the only way they can
Defending
get that. They defend the thing that
their
fucks them.
jailer. They're defending
They
their
need to
jailer.
believe it.
Yeah.
They need to
Yeah.
believe it to stop the chaos of not knowing. Absolutely. So all you're going to do is trigger them. However,
So,
what you
okay.
can do is pull
Yeah.
your attention out of the pendulum
Which
by
I've
me.
done.
That's just why the Arcturians described Ramana Maharshi, what he brought to the world, satsang, which is the path. Just it's a word that means the path of self-inquiry. Instead of figuring it all out there and making everybody accountable to make your life work, because it's never going to work. That's what's caused this pain all throughout history. The Islamic thing that's playing out right now. They went through a process at the hands of those of the interference through this body like the UN and centralized systems that were created after World War II. Their entire cultures were decimated. Children grew up in poverty and trauma. When you see whole villages executed as a 5-year-old, you shut off emotionally in a way that's devastating, and that anger comes out in a way it cannot be controlled. Now you can be controlled through this extremism of Islam because it's a way to get that anger, problem, reaction, solution, and harvest it into a form that you can then manipulate. And then all they do is just then send them out right around the world to take it out on everybody else. And that pattern's been playing out throughout history,
Yep.
which is
And
why
once
Tom
you
said
see it,
the
you can't
time for
unsee it.
religion's over. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And now they're not willing to see it, but we are. We are. And that's why Tom said it's better for you if you choose it. Yeah, it's hard. It's been hard on all of us. But we've got the question, hang on a minute. All I care about is what works. What works is seeing through the lie. And we may not see
Truth
it
or
that way,
die.
but that's what's changing. That's what's changing.
Truth or
So
die.
the frequency war Those of the interference, the term he used is think of interference as a frequency. Think of the entire universe as a frequency. So it has a natural state. So this frequency of the interference, which causes a cognitive and a physical and our whole reality resonates at a false frequency that is anti-life. And we keep on resonating with it. It's like against the truth. That frequency is now being countered by the reality of the human race. And the pyramid system activating has basically sent that back into reality in a form that their technology has no defense against. The only reason
Amen.
that's is because enough people are aware that there's a question, what's the truth? And that's becoming physical within our reality. People are waking up to
Yes,
that.
that's a big thing Pam and David spoke about. And Pam said it's, across the board, just about anybody worth their weight in gold is saying that. Like
Yeah.
the speed at which our awareness is growing. And yeah, it like even though there are no mistakes and everything, no coincidences and all of that, and this was all written in the stars, that's where I get tripped up too, though, because if this was all written in the stars and there are no mistakes and this has been planned since the beginning of the universe, then how did they not know that this was going to speed up like it is? Like I get caught up with silly questions like that. Like, oh, this is so much faster than they thought it would be. Well, what do you mean? They know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
So so why are they surprised that the awareness is speeding? You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, that's those are the interference Tom described. What are they? This is the one question people don't ask enough. What are they trying to achieve? What's the goal? What's their goal? And people come up with all sorts of answers to that because they don't really understand the scale.
Mm-mm.
It's not about governments and the media. It's about this group who's manipulating. They've never been seen before. No one knows their face or name. It's not
Nope.
Bezos and Gates. They were just traumatized children brought up through a satanic network who were then unleashed on the world. And,
Yep.
that's the sacrifice to the satanic sacrificial thing. The Nazis that were executed at World War II, that was their duty to give their lives to this plan and to cover the arse to make it look like retribution was done. But that wasn't happen. That's not it. That didn't happen. Basically, most of the group that were at that level back then were put around the world. And so all the faces and names that's a layer below this group. So that question, what's the truth, and that group being exposed go hand in hand. And they have no defense against it. And the way Tom put their motive, they're looking for a way to make the transition with you. They're looking for it because they have to. If they can't find a way to manipulate us into allowing them to be the source of this transition instead of the divine, they're done. They're done. And they were trapped into that process deliberately by the genetic proceeding of this planet and the human race. It was all done deliberately. Here you go. Here's a great carrot. The way the Arcturians put it, everything that's been used against you will be turned back to the user. What do they use? Temptation, this need for something. Okay, it looks really tempting to go and get a career and be rich. Yeah, that'll do it. It looks really tempting to have a Ferrari. It looks blah blah blah. Well, temptation. It's a double-edged sword because if Tom said your motivation's your protection in all things. If you're coming from a need to be someone and you don't care who you step on, you create a lot of problems for yourself, and it's not coming from a
Mm-hmm.
pure, when
Mm-mm.
you know you don't need anything or anyone, you are perfect as you are, and life is too. That's a whole other thing. Then you can have a Ferrari. There's no problem with that because there's art in
Sure.
everything. Let's make the
Yeah,
best, let's make the best car we can, but it doesn't mean it has no value to you being someone. That's a whole other thing, right?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
those of the interference were trapped here because of the lure of being able to accelerate the plan to take over the galaxy and by extension the universe as being the source rather than God, replace God as the source. That's really the plan. Because if
God
they could,
is the universe, though, and the
yeah,
universe is
yeah,
God. So
you
isn't
can't,
God those of the interference, and aren't those of the interference God? Like it's all one thing.
those are the interferences of false conclusion about the ego, that it can be separate from God, can replace God, that it's the source of consciousness.
Okay.
And then this distortion plays out from there. Think of it as, that's why they call it the Antichrist. The Nazarene is the ego in service to self in its highest physical form. That's what the Nazarene is an archetype for. And that's why he could be born into the physical, which God can do too. He said, we may put on the mantle of the physical, which gets back to the Sphinx. Um, However, it's also an archetype. The mind, the thought I serves the universe. We created you, you created us, and for that we love you. Free will. Do you love life as it is? We have the capacity to think wherever we want, however we want. But there's a way that works and there's a way that doesn't work. We have the free will. If you want to know if someone loves you, set them free. If they come back to you, the love is pure. You can't force them to do it. The ego that
Mm-mm.
controls, that's what we're all suffering from within family. That's what the interference
Mm-hmm.
does. Love is conditional. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be a certain way in order to get love. That's what the ego that controls does. But what the ramifications for the human race, if they could have taken over us and used us as a light space vehicle for their inversion, they could have had the entire galaxy in one go because we're a conglomerate of the galaxy. So we were a trap, a lure. What they underestimated is all the ramifications for that. It wasn't just, hey, we can get the whole galaxy in one go. There was a lot of other ramifications. The problem with the ego that controls it misses a lot. And it didn't understand, they didn't fully understand what they were getting into until it was too late. But the problem with this deal was they made a deal with God. In a sense, this whole thing, make a deal with the devil. You better be careful when you do that. It all looks good on the surface, but there's a way more to it. You sell your soul. If you start acting from that motive, you've got so much karma, you have to keep on coming back to live through the karma, which you get lost in. You get lost in the karma and you just become more and more distorted. And that's what those of the interference have been doing throughout the universe. And it's been getting worse and worse. And it's been destabilizing the fundamental layer of the universe. Hence, we were put together at the most physically dense layer self-aware life can live at. And that was a trap again. If they can get an entire galaxy in one race at that physical density, the
Mm-hmm.
ramifications for that for the entire universe are they can then, by extension, it's a lot easier for them to just keep on repeating that pattern throughout all the other galaxies. But they had to go all in. Here you
Mm-hmm.
go. Life goes all in. In other words, you can't go back. You can't, you can put cards down in a card game and you can keep your strategy going. But if you put them all down, you've got no cards left. You've got no hand to play. You're in. Either your hand wins or it loses. That's it. So that's what happened. Life went all in. The Arcturians called the plan, they gave this to my wife, shoot for the moon, life's best hand. And those of the interference went all in. So they were trapped. They had to win or it was done. Now that's problem is free
Mm-hmm.
will. When you put a mix of races together like that, the hundredth monkey effect ratio completely changes. The number of beings within the
Oh.
race that need to choose the truth in order for the entire human race to
Goes
follow that trajectory
down
goes down a lot.
a
Instead of having
lot.
two-thirds of a race have to choose this, make the same choice for the
Right.
race to change trajectories. In other words, stop going down the interference path and choose to come back to the truth. It's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
However, with the human race, whole other story,
Whole other story.
whole other story. So that's precisely what's happened. And again, the
Wow.
Nazarene triggered the trap when he arrived as the Nazarene at the point of the Roman Empire, when they were creating the final point of the plan, which is the corporate system, which is the Vatican. He triggered the trap and they executed him with the same error of thinking. Yeah, we'll just get rid of him, problem solved. We'll get Paul, the patriarch of the Roman Catholic Church, the lying spouter, to infiltrate the movement around the Nazarene and we'll distort it so living memory of the reality of the Nazarene gets erased over time and we'll replace it with the controlled narrative like we've always done throughout history. We'll just do the same thing, MO. That'll problem solved, they thought. But what happened is they sent the Nazarenes reality. Remember, the interference is a frequency. The truth of who we are is a frequency. The Nazarene held that in its highest form that's possible in the physical at the most physically dense level. And he took that homeopathic dose of the truth of who we are into our collective consciousness. And it's been sitting there influencing the entire process the whole time. So that when the amplification of the uh, Schumann resonance of the planet, which was always going to happen at this point in history,
Mm-hmm.
started, it actually accelerated that coming up into collective consciousness.
Oh.
But also, it allowed him, the Nazarene's brother, and the Magdalene, who had been brought through a very specific process by the Nazarene, by connecting with the Magdalene and connecting with his brother James, who had a very similar frequency to the Nazarene, and then the whole purpose was to transfer who he was and the complete reality to them so that they could pick up where he left off. So he took the consciousness of who we are into our collective consciousness and then set up a physical light space vehicle pattern that could actually repeat the process the Nazarene did. So a soul group has been able to incarnate throughout that time since the Roman Empire and create this counter move to the controlled narrative that's always been threaded out through history in a whole other level.
Yeah.
And that's now triggered the 100th monkey effect, which happened in 97. That's the whole
Well, I
purpose.
know. I know. I love that. Question you might not have an answer to. Do you think the Nazarene will return in physical
He's
form?
already here. Absolutely. Yeah. He's here already. He never went anywhere in a sense. The Galactic Federation,
In this
uh,
physically dense form?
uh, no,
Okay.
recognizable as the Nazarene.
Okay.
And that's actually the reality. It's not Yeshua, he didn't look. That's the closest thing you'll see to the actual reality of what he looked like.
Okay.
That's why that was given to him,
Okay.
that image,
Yeah.
which was taken from the Shroud of Turin. And this is the Nazarene confirming that
Oh my
133.
gosh, you're right.
All right, so yeah,
Oh,
that
I
flash of
love that
light,
shit.
he created a photo image on the shroud.
So what was
He returned to his natural state, but in the same light space vehicle. And that's exactly what's happening with the human race. That's why it's unique. That's never happened before. So that's why
so
he's
you
come.
say he never left in a sense.
Yeah. Well, the Galactic Federation never went anywhere because we were a
Sure.
product of the genetic program that was created by them. The
They're
Nazarene over,
overseeing all of it.
well, the Nazarene was given the job of overseeing the whole thing. So that perspective that could see the entire plan and how it needed to play out to fulfill the mission was then um, ninth dimensional races like the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, etc., plus all the races at different densities throughout the Federation, were able to receive that plan in all the right stages so it played out properly. So he oversaw that. And the Federation's never gone anywhere because they've been here the whole time because we came from that plan. So the Nazarenes' capacity to connect with us is because we're returning to that form. Sorry, pardon me.
You
And
okay?
that's what's happening. This is new consciousness. But it's, like I said, it's not really that it's new, although it is, in a way. We're just coming back to the truth of who we've always been, and that's the Nazarene.
Hearing people denounce their life's work with the galactics and everything and publicly saying they don't believe in ETs from other planets. I just
Um, I understand why, because the illusion of separation is just that. However, they misunderstand it. Here we are. Separation's an illusion, absolutely. We are. It's not. It's an illusion created to for a purpose. That which is wishes to experience itself as that. The only way to do that is to have a self-aware life that doesn't see the full picture yet. to go through a series of experiences that bring that full picture to. So the all it is coming back into unity through self-aware life, choosing to go through a process through free will of coming back to the truth of who we are in higher and higher and higher stages. So all self-aware life's mission is to return to ninth density. The nine is completion. And when every single self-aware being in the entire universe has done that, the universe returns. So that big bang and then coming back to unity. So in a sense, look, it's true in a way, but
We
it's not.
are.
It's not reality.
It's us and we're it. And
The Galactic
how do
Federation
you
is
not
real.
believe in it?
They're as real as we are.
Right. Right.
But in the end, the body mind is a light space vehicle for soul. And soul is just a wave on an ocean of the single consciousness of the entire universe. So is there
Mm.
separation? Is the wave separate from the ocean? Yeah, in a way, but no, it's all just
Yeah.
the ocean. And
Right.
that's all.
Right.
Think of the body mind as the white cap of a wave.
Right.
In the end, it comes and it
Right.
goes. It's not the ocean is the consciousness and it's all one being experiencing itself through the illusion
Yeah.
of separation. So
Yeah.
they're as real as we are. Same purpose.
Yeah, that's where I think I've gotten tripped up before, and I've asked you this question too, because I get caught up in the Katie who I love, right? Like, okay, so if we're all individuated fractals of the creator, if we are the creator experiencing itself always in all ways, and we're all exactly what I just said, individuated
Yeah.
aspects of the one
Mhm.
creator.
The divine.
Do we, when we return to source, do we keep our individuation? I mean,
Yes.
like, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's such a
Yeah.
weird question to ask.
Oh, that's what soul is. Higher self, soul. Yeah. However, the
So
whole
why do
mission
they
of
need, okay, I just get
the
caught
whole
up with why the creator needed to do this to experience itself if we could have just all stayed right where we were having a good time.
well, it's not like that because
I
soul,
know, I know.
the mission of the illusion of separation is created by soul. So you have an individual soul. So the reason you have a soul purpose, like we incarnated on this planet with a purpose. So there was a reason souls develop. This process of returning to source through the illusion of separation is at a soul level. So each incarnation has a role in that process. So how you live through that process through free will, um, the success of each life is has a direct impact on how you move. So you can be born into a ninth density race. Once the soul process, you've had enough incarnations that have brought you through a process of returning back to the truth of who you are through the illusion of separation at all sorts of different levels of existence. Your soul evolves back to form. So when all the souls have gone through that process to completion, the entire universe returns to unity. Now you can't go there with your mind.
Nope.
You can't go there with your mind. You
I
won't.
just
You won't.
tried and
Yeah,
it's not possible.
you're asking the question. Tom said, totality of understanding is beyond your comprehension. So you're not going to get the full answer to that. You have to experience. You will experience it though.
Hmm.
Direct experience. At
Hmm.
some point, the universe will return to unity
Be
because of that.
because when I hear, the Big Bang, and then when all self-aware life has returned to the truth of who we are, it goes like this. I'm like, well, wait a minute. It kind of sounds like we're all blipped out of existence. Like, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
no,
not for my comprehension. I hear myself. I can't believe I'm going to publish this video. It's saying such nonsense, but I don't
no,
know.
it's just it's
So
a good question. It's a great
curious.
question. It's a
Yeah.
great question because
Yeah.
everyone's wrestling with a whole lot of stuff here. I mean, what's reality? And it's a tough one to get
Everyone,
your head around. But
everyone's
ETs are just as
wrestling
real. They're as real
just
as
as
we are.
real as we are. I know.
The way
I,
God put it, why are they alien? We say to you, they are your brothers and sisters. God wouldn't say that if.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I
if the
know.
people who say ETs aren't real were right.
It's just so funny. Every once in a while, you see a meme of like, it's basically a space scene, right? And it's all zoomed out and it looks like a Milky Way and like a planet and then this little dot and it's like, okay, all of this and you're worrying about taxes. Like it's just a very funny thing because I just like look around at all the stuff everyone's worrying about, which is very real in the physical sense of their lives and their experience. And then there's the Katie that understands none of it's fucking real.
Absolutely. And that's the
So
two,
crazy. It's
you know,
hard to
that,
find. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's hard to find the marriage or the balance of that without looking like a total cold bitch because there is empathy and understanding for the struggle and everything all while knowing this is a game, this isn't
yeah,
real.
fundamentally, and
Yeah.
again, it's an illusion based on the principle of art. You know, inspiration, you're inspired to move through a process. And once you come to the end of that process, it's not
Hmm.
about who you are. It's about experiencing who you are. It's not
I
about
want to look at it.
becoming.
I want to look at it and see it beautiful again.
Yeah, sure. But again, wrestling with the idea that that's not the case already is
I
the only problem.
know.
And that's why
I
he
know.
said, what's the problem? The lack of a belief in an absolute reality. This is not the natural state. But that's again, that's something people are being robbed of, that there is a natural state. You know, that
Yeah.
we don't, the less we think that way, aliens aren't real. I mean, what's the motivation? The question is, who within that person that's saying that, who are they being in that moment and where are they really coming from? Be honest about it. Turn your attention around and back. Feel it. Say it.
Sure.
Absolutely. But always look back. Hang on a minute. Where's that coming from really? Is it coming from the truth of who I am, the natural state, or is it coming from the ego that controls
Yeah.
with a
And it's
desire
almost
to get me
always
out?
the ego that controls.
Yeah. Well, there's a desire for an outcome, which is based on the idea that you aren't that already. And of course,
Yeah.
everything you say and do based on that motivation reinforces the pendulum,
Yeah.
reinforces this false reality. And that's the problem. So the point we're all at, everyone who chose the great coming together or the great falling apart, if you chose it, just keep coming back to that question. Hang on a minute. I don't have to just believe those conclusions. I can think them and feel them absolutely. But I can pull my attention out of that feeling and out of that story. That's the one thing I've never done before. I didn't even know it was a thing. Let the feeling be there. Don't try and
Yeah.
manage it.
Sure.
Let the feeling. Now that's hard to hear. Absolutely. I'm feeling it. Believe me. You know, I
I
had to
know.
spend 3 hours yesterday going for a walk because of all the anger at my dad I was feeling. But I know what to do with it. That's the difference. I know what to do with it. Now I'm still, it's not a destination, it's a way of life. I still have to
Yes.
keep meeting the feeling and letting the story be there.
Yeah.
But I've also know better than to keep feeding it because it's a false paradigm and they'll
Yeah.
never get a result. Calling up my dad and going, bleh, won't do anything. He won't understand what I'm talking about for starters. But holding that feeling and burning up in it, that's one of the things Ramana would say. It burns you up. It feels hot. It feels intense. It feels like it's a fire you want to jump
So
out of.
angry.
But
So
that's what
angry.
burns up the false self. It burns up all of this stuff will just keep coming out in that tense intensity of being able to hold it, hold the feeling, let it be there. Don't argue with it. It's there. You can't argue with it. When you argue with it, what
Yeah.
did you suffer? I feel this way. Spirituality tries to shame people for feeling angry and acting out on it. And that doesn't work
Yeah.
either. It's just suppression.
Yeah.
So let the feeling be there. Let yourself say it. Let the shame about that be there too. That's all part of it. And because your mind's describing it based on its level of understanding,
Mm.
the story, and then
Mm-hmm.
just don't believe the story. Hang on a minute, where's that story coming from? And how do I really know it's
Trying.
true?
I'm trying.
What happens when you do that? You switch on as a receiver. And as I said, the only result is you will receive the answer through direct experience over time. And it's always happening. However, seeing the answer in front of you, it takes time. The less feeling tone there is behind this inversion, the less story keeps on reaction. It's the short. You'll find that the shorter it lasts, it doesn't last. And you might get triggered by your partner, and 5 years ago it took you a week to be able to look at them and speak to them. Now it's like within a day. Then it gets in within an hour. You can come back to peace. It takes less and less time because there's less and less energy feeding the story.
I just thought partner, what's that? I
Well,
don't know.
life for a woman's a man.
10 years. Tell that to
So
say that
you
to me
still got to
again.
get a
10
hand.
years.
You still got to get a handle on how the feminine and masculine principles interact.
Maybe it's not for me to get a handle on. Maybe a relationship is not in the stars for me.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is. All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
I'm sure.
it.
Whatever.
See, what would motivate you to want to come to the conclusion that it's never going to happen?
I don't know. Probably to give me like
Grief?
not wanting it, grief. I don't know. I don't know.
Trying to manage the grief and of the
Trying to
loss of.
manage. Well, yeah. Well, yesterday was the 12-year anniversary of losing the baby,
Mm, yeah.
in this same house,
Mm.
in
It's
that
a hard
same
feeling to stay in.
bedroom. Yeah.
You know, that's
I
it.
don't know. It's like, yeah, relationships are for other people. All those kids
Yeah.
are for other people.
Great example of the story. Don't believe the story. It's just a story
Exactly.
and one's telling you to manage the grief of the pain of separation. But is it
Yeah.
true? Are you, okay,
I can't know that. No.
and can you be separate from the truth of who you are and the truth of where you are really?
No.
Yeah. So you're not
And
feeding
is
people?
what is for you, can what is for you ever pass you by? No.
No. Now,
No.
the more you relax into all of this, the more grief and pain and loss will come up because you've said yes to the illusion showing itself so that you can see through it because you're willing to see through it and you will. And as a Ramana said, when you know your own mind, you know all minds. So all of these people out there that we judge as being wrong for not waking up, we'll see through that to the grief and loss of the pain of separation and have compassion for them because we know what
Yeah.
it feels like
We know
and we
what
know
it
what it
feels
does
like.
to you because we
Oh,
because we were
it
perpetrators of the
rips
same
you
thing.
upside down and sideways and backwards. It destroys you.
Perpetrators become victims, and we've all victims become perpetrators, and yeah, so it frees you from that whole pendulum of reactionaryism eventually. But you got to be willing to be wrong about everything you've ever thought about everyone and everything, and that's not easy.
Yeah.
What's true
So
can show itself.
Sonia said some really good stuff to me today. It was really awesome. She actually said to me, "I think I'm channeling Gareth for you right now." And it's entirely possible she was. She wrote this to me this afternoon. She's like, "I really believe for how quickly your change came on, it's going to leave just as quickly." She says,
Precise.
I believe that with my whole being."
Yeah. And
And
she
I
can count on
started
it happening
crying.
for her.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I can't even believe she said that to me. Like
It's
that's
beautiful.
so it feels so good. Because
It's
you've
beautiful.
said that to me. You said, your awakening was almost overnight. So when the peace that's coming for you will be almost as instantaneous.
Yeah. You went to
Whew,
0 point.
very quickly.
And so the waking up process was total. It was everything everywhere all at once. And that's full on. But you're strong enough to hold it. And that
That's
was your
just
sole purpose. And there was a whole group of souls who incarnated on this planet to be here at this time with that same capacity.
There's so many of us, and we keep meeting them. I keep
Sure.
finding them all over the planet, either in the internet or in person at things. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. They're everywhere, and they feel the pain, and you can see it when you talk to them that they can understand your pain. And so I had just told, I think I told you this, and I told Sonia this. I just sent a little package of goodies to my sister and nieces, and I haven't heard anything, but this is par for the course these days, right? And she channeled again, Sonia. She says, you, well, first of all, she said, the field wants nothing from you except to leave yourself alone so it can take care of you. How
Wow.
beautiful.
Way
Oh,
of putting it?
what? Right? I almost texted her and said, you want to jump on this Zoom with me and Gareth? And then she said, she's so good. And then she said, you don't need to give anything more to your family. You've done enough.
Really?
And I'm like, I said, and then I think I was talking to you, and I'm like, I think there's a level of Stockholm syndrome. There's like such an urgency or a need for them to love me.
Mm.
And I don't,
Yeah.
and then I said to you, like, everyone I come across loves me and I love them. Not in some egoic, fat-headed
Yeah.
way, but I'm beloved and loved, and I love them and they love me. I'm like, why am I begging for these people who aren't very nice to me to pay me attention? Like, what is that?
It. That's it. Exactly.
It's
Well, I
from
mean,
being the
everyone's,
performing circus bear all my life. That's what it is.
and yeah, everyone just turn it around. Their lack of love for themselves is projected out. And
That's
yeah,
sad.
like what everything Sonia just said, put her name in front of it. She knows she's speaking to herself just as much as you.
She sure is. She knows it too. She even said that. She's said the exact same thing. I'm going through the same lesson. I can't be around them right now, and no, they can't love me. And I know they can't love me the way I would like them to. She
Yeah.
said she's spot on. That's
Yeah.
because, yeah, like
And
sees like.
fundamentally, it never had anything to do with us, but we believed it did. And there's a lots of us still trapped in points in time throughout our lives together that still need to hear that and own that and meet that. And that's all this process is. Seriously, it's you just being put back through, it's like time travel. God's holding you through a process of being held back all the way back through time to the point where all of this happened. So these experiences that are coming to you are really just about that. And all the layers of that trapped emotion are being released. Of course, they all feel the same, so it feels like you're not moving anywhere. Of course, the stories all sound the same because they all come from the same place ultimately. But the level of symptomology, the impact of that first moment had is being reduced slowly over time because you're going further back.
Yep.
And it's all the same pattern, but
Yep.
when you're willing not to know, you surrender everything back to reality. Show me the truth. That's exactly what happens. You're being brought back to the point where you left yourself to
And
see
the
that.
field and the field can then take care of you.
Yeah.
You don't have to do a thing.
And just remember this, the field is a field of information. So the entire universe is
Yeah.
light. It's a field of
Yes.
information.
The
Everything
entire
works the same
universe
way.
wants all of us to succeed. The universe has our back at all times and in all ways. Like,
That's
that's
the
what
point.
nobody gets their head around. They're all
The
angry at
families,
God. And let me just share one more brilliant nugget from Sonia. She said she was familiar with like my overgiving. She's like, overgiving doesn't make up for all the love we didn't get as kids. She's so good. She's so good. I love
yeah,
that girl.
yes. And yeah, forgive. You're giving back what's theirs.
Yeah. Everyone has the same problem wearing different
You
clothes.
forgive them
I've
because
said that
you
forever.
you forgive them because you see where it comes from,
Absolutely.
and
And
it's not
you'll
from
see there's nothing to forgive. It,
to give
right.
before. The reality that comes before that interaction is that it's not true of anyone. It's not true of
No,
them or us. So what
no,
value does it have trying to resolve it? It doesn't have any. So
right.
that's the motivation behind forgiveness. It's not about letting them off the hook, which I
No.
think a lot of people get caught up in. The
Oh
anger that's
yeah,
coming,
that's part of
you
the
know, he
inversion, I
wants,
believe.
well, the anger that comes up wants to paint it that way. And that's why a
Yep.
lot of people have problem with Byron Katie, with this whole turn the belief system around and the judgment around. But ultimately, what frees you is taking responsibility for what's the word? How we uh, kind of how we let it in. There's a word for it. It's just popped out of my head. How we co-facilitated this relationship.
Co-created.
Well,
Co-created.
we sort of we let it in and we bought into it. So we kind of we facilitated it.
We're participants in it.
That that's a hard one to own, isn't it?
Yes.
Because we want it to
Yes.
be all about them doing it to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't do it to us if we didn't let them.
Right.
And this is the importance of what Ramana meant when he said, you can't let it go. This is the it. There's
Yes.
lots of layers of the impact of that, but the it is this moment. You can't let it go. All you can do is be willing to see it and it will let you go.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
fact that we let it in out of a false belief that we bought into it, the only solution is to not buy into it anymore. The
Mm-hmm.
only way to do that is if you let it name you. So that moment has a name. There's a word that describes it that you've never seen before. So where
Mm-hmm.
it's coming from in the other person, it pulls you into this conditional love loop and forces you to pull out of yourself. We can't do that unless we give permission to them to allow that
Yeah.
to happen. So
Yeah.
we stop giving permission because we see through it. It's
Yes.
not true of them
Yes.
or us. That's a tough one to do because we want to be a
Well,
victim.
right, but that's why many of us just pulled ourselves out of it altogether. There are so many of us who are literally living in the gap, looking at the it and
Yeah.
doing nothing with it, allowing it to be what it is and inform us when it's
Yes.
divinely timed. One more, Sonia Gold. It's hard to know this, but their lack of love is what frees you. Like needing, needing their lack of love or needing their love and the lack of love.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how do you see it? You
When
turn
you
it
don't
around.
need it, you're free.
Well, you turn it around in both cases. Is there
Yeah.
lack of love about you, or is it about themselves? Have
About
they just
themselves.
people? We had to be someone that we judged ourselves as wrong, so that's lack of love. So
Yep.
they've just done the same thing. We bought into it.
Oh, wait, I can't see. I can't show it. It won't show. But it says the highest form of peace is having no desire to be seen, validated, or understood by anyone.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
what would, yeah, absolutely, because what you don't need to be validated to be who you are. You are who you are, and it has
Yeah.
no value. There's no need to confirm that. If you need to confirm that, it's because you don't believe it. And
Yourself.
that there's
That
nothing
goes
anyone can
right
say
back
that
to
will,
you.
nothing anyone can say that will change that. If you don't believe
Did it?
it, you'll never get. Again, how do we co-facilitate it? We believe it's true. Stop believing it's true. How do you do that? You can't do it with an act of will. You've got to let life take you back through all of the impact that that moment had on you, one moment at a time, until you come back to the core of it. And you do that by letting the feeling be there and not believing the story, letting the story be there, but going, is it really true? And you switch back on as a receiver and you receive the answer, which is that moment names itself to you.
That's that's why I
Because it names it,
say it's an inside job, full stop.
yeah, well, it shows you what it really is. So you see through it.
When
It
am I
was
going to
never
see
true.
that? When am I going to get the name?
You, well, the faster you let go of needing it,
to know.
the faster it shows
Whatever.
it.
Shut up, Gareth. Know it all.
Oh, no, yeah. Look,
It's
it's,
trippy. It's like infinite. It's trippy. It's ironic and it's frustrating and it's messy and it's really,
yeah.
really uncomfortable.
That's why you can't do it with the mind.
So
You've got
sad.
to let the consciousness of yourself and everything around you come back. And
Yeah.
that's the only way to do that is to stay in the gap of not knowing. whilst you have this massive imperative to know so that you can stop feeling the feelings you've got in the chaos of not knowing. And that's the whole problem, the motivation behind that. That motivation. Tom said your motivation is your protection in all things. If you're
Mm,
coming back to the truth of who you are, everything serves that purpose, even though it looks like you're just being who you judge yourself to be. And you trigger the judgment in other people, but that serves that purpose. You seeing through it. So it all plays a role in that question. Going the other way, getting rid of that experience by managing it all.
yeah.
That's the motivation is coming from the idea that you know that already. So you just keep reinforcing that and you'll keep on living that as if it were true and it'll get more and more disconnected. That the version of surrendering into the gap, the opposite of that is what your mum's gone through, where she's completely disconnected emotionally.
Yep.
It's the opposite. The mind disconnects from the heart. Doing it the other way around, the heart, reconnecting to the heart through the question, what's the truth, disconnects from the false mind. So you can't
I
believe it.
think I think
It
I'm
just,
furious at her disconnection. I think that's my rage is her disconnection. Is at her
yeah.
disconnection.
So turn it around.
Like, shut up, Gareth.
Well, the sins of the father are visited on the son. She modeled for you a way of being that you took on so that you could connect to her, but you took it on. So there's a purpose, the rage you're feeling towards her and seeing her as the point of origin that has value, because in a way it's true.
Sure.
But again,
Also,
taking responsibility for how you bought into it.
participation in it.
You allowed yourself, you agreed to it.
Yep.
You agreed to that way of being in a sense. So now you're seeing through that moment
And I'm
that
angry.
that it doesn't serve you or her, that it's not about the truth. It's not even about
Mm-mm.
her. Yeah. And you,
Mm-mm.
you get to a point where you can forgive her. You can see through the lie in her to her heart, which never went anywhere because you've done the same for yourself. And you've used this rage and experience of since you've come back home and everything you've gone through, and you've used that process instead of using it to keep reinforcing the pain and anger, you've used it to undo it. And so that's why I say you went straight to 0 point, the source of it all. What is a woman in the world and how do you manage life? She showed you the inversion and you took it on. And your free will, it was always your choice whether you took it on or not. You didn't have to take it on, you chose to. So now you can unchoose to. And that's a tough one to hear. A lot of
Chose
people
to. Shut
get
up.
really angry when they hear that. Oh, I didn't do it, they did it.
I
You know,
didn't
that's,
choose that.
hmm.
I know.
But you incarnated on this planet at this time to go through this experience so that you could participate in the entire planet being free of that problem.
Yep. I'm kind of special that way. You know,
That feels done. Is that done?
that feels done. That feels done. All right, don't go anywhere just yet. All right, love everybody. Thanks
Love
to anybody who watches.
whoever's watching and participating, you're doing the right thing. Just keep on not knowing, and the answer comes to you.